I'm going to take a few minutes now to review some basic integrative nutrition theories. Things that are unique to our school, to our education. Number one, we teach over 100 different dietary theories. So many people, the path to wellness, to diet is, this is what people do. They do research, they buy books off of Amazon, they do research on the internet, trying to figure out what we did here. Well, which diet really works? There's so many of them, and every year there's another 10 more diets. So to be able to have an education where, how many of you went on the raw food diet this year? It's kind of a normal human behavior, and it's a unique selling point. When you're going into a spa, you're going into a doctor's office, nobody talks this talk. That I've been trained in all the different dietary theories, and I can help your client move through them and figure out what's going to work for them. Number two, also no one else talks about, primary food. Primary food overrides secondary food, and although we are called Institute for Integrative Nutrition, a lot of what we do is personal coaching to be able to assist people in relationship, exercise, career, and spiritual practice. And within relationship, we include husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, children, parents, but also relationship in general with workers, classmates, and also I think it's really important to be able to have a mature adult conversation in the healthcare field about sexuality. So much eating disorders and health problems are related to complexities within sexuality that's unspoken, even to people's closest life partner. And to be able to create dialogue and conversation with the client in a mature way is really unique and extremely helpful. Next, it's based on the individual, not on a theory, what we call bioindividuality. One person's food is another person's poison, and that it's based on age and gender, race, culture, blood type, level of activity. We want to respect the individual because what a lot of people do is respect the theory. And let's face it, the theory often fails for people. And then they blame themselves, and that's not a good idea. We talk about crowding out. Instead of taking foods away, a big secret is to add foods in, because it's not like you can tell people, stop eating junk food, and the next day they stop. Maybe if they have cancer, they do that. But for most people, it's this temptation, trying to be a food celibate and then failing, which creates a whole different level of problems within the individual. Number 5, given half a chance, the human body will heal itself. I like to say that the giraffe doesn't go to the giraffe specialist when it's sick. And to be able to feel safe that, yesterday I was talking to Mary, and Mary was saying, I came into the school with MS, and I'm leaving the school without MS. There was a certain point, and I was just so moved, because, she was on chemotherapy and blah, blah therapy and blah, blah, blah. All these doctors, and then they're all well-intended people, but at one point she's like, my body can heal itself by itself. And she backed out of the whole system, and MS is hard to clear up. And so knowing that the body will heal itself we're kind of a health counselor. I used to teach this more in class, but a health counselor is a lot of placebo effect. You don't really need to do hardly anything and people will get well because they've put in $1,000, they're motivated people, and The body gets itself better by itself, so you just basically sit there, give 1 or 2 suggestions at each session, and then this magic happens. Not very gratifying for the ego, but it works, and that's what counts. Next is deconstructing cravings. To understand that the body is a complex biocomputer, more complex than the space station, and the body never makes a mistake. I heard lately the space station toilet didn't work. Sometimes the human toilet doesn't work. You know what I mean? But usually it's because of something we've been doing. Stress, inappropriate way of eating, those kinds of things. But the heart never misses a beat, the lungs always breathe. We've eaten all kinds of ridiculous quantities of food that our bodies digested for us. Sometimes we had too much alcohol, maybe too much drugs, maybe the wrong foods, but it always comes through for us. So when the body's craving ice cream, cookies, chocolate, alcohol, anything, it's probably not making a mistake. Rather, it's trying to create a balance for something that's not quite right in the system. And so we've talked about this before, but that is really different than most people's way of thinking about eating disorders. When a person comes home and empties the refrigerator or the cupboards of food, it's called an eating disorder. That same person will not do that if they have a loving person greeting them at the door. How are you today? How are you, honey? How was your day? Let's get in bed and have fun. So the question really is, does that person have an eating disorder or do they have a relationship disorder? Right? And so when thought about that way, it brings a remarkably new perspective to the whole arena about cravings and empowering the client to deconstruct their cravings to see what's causing it and then to find healthier ways to balance out those cravings. A lot of people medicate themselves. They're like, oh, I won't take Valium. And then they medicate themselves with food to be able to alter their mood through food in a generally unconscious way. My favorite of those is de-evolution. You know, everything's going well, and then we have the tall poppy syndrome that we want to just fit in, so we start doing things to our daily diet to consciously or unconsciously mess ourselves up because life is too good. So I want to ask you to give that up and to know that it is inevitable that the quality of your life will soar above those of people around you because your understanding of how to live life has a much deeper foundation in education to know how to navigate through the challenges that will inevitably occur. And the last thing is that the same diet and lifestyle will help everyone. When I drive in New York, especially on the east side, and there's all these huge hospitals, you know what I mean? And I'm wondering to myself, what is this all about? And you know, all these drug companies, and I think it's important to be able to have that kind of allopathic healthcare. But I think if we actually brought this into fruition, there would be an enormous change in the way that health is perceived, and that health is a birthright. It's a kind of should be like the foundation of everything is to be healthy.